Hey, what's going on, everybody? Your boy Blake, Money Blake Weather. Another episode of Loaded Joe's MMA podcast. Yes, thank you for tuning in as always. Finally, we got some fights. We got some breakdowns to do. Before we get into all that, give a shout out real quick to all of our sponsors. ZenSoapCo.com. All natural soap made out here in Austin, Texas, using all natural ingredients. Shout outs to them, right? Check them out. Use the keyword GETLOADED for 10% off all natural soaps. It's all natural ingredients. For sure, go check them out, right? Also, check out Gear Athletes. GetGearWorldwide.com. Remember, they're not only awesome shirts and awesome hats and awesome bags and awesome gis and rash guards. Percentage of all contributions does go to endangered animal rescue. What do they call them? Endangered animal rescue, the agencies and stuff like that. So for sure, right? Go check them out, and just know anytime you spend money, it's going to a good place too. Also, go check out NOP Media. NOP Media. They do all of our graphic, all of our imaging, all of our work, right? Without them, no us. So for sure, go check them out. UFC, what is it? 124 this weekend? Fox Sports 1? No, this Sunday, right? Sunday. And it's pretty legit card, no? Pretty legit. They got some bangers, as the kids would say. Only gonna focus on a few, cause I mean, is it a 4-fight main card, but it's on Fox Sports 1? What? I think it is. We're gonna really just focus on the main event and co-main event. Main event being Choi and Jeremy Stephens. Now this fight is interesting. I always say that, right? This fight's interesting, right? And I always, whatever. But this fight is interesting. So yeah, Choi, Jeremy Stephens, man. One thing I want to focus on with this fight especially is something I have been noticing in fights kind of recently. And it's the notion that the whole thing of false narratives. What am I meaning by false narratives? UFC is selling us on some shit that's really not true, right? They were selling us on Holly Holm that she's this, phenomenal whatever, but really the only two highlights they ever show was Ronda Rousey and her knocking out Beige Correa. And they show the one where, she got little, did up by old Raquel Pennington, and don't really show, even the little struggle that she had against Marion Renault, right? They don't really show that. So, but they grab the highlights of what they want and make you believe some shit it's not really true. Holly Holm's not a very powerful fighter. She's very good. Like, I don't want to knock Holly, kick a horse while it's down, but I'm trying to, set up this notion of false narratives. UFC is trying to make you believe things that's not really true. And in this case, I think with Jeremy Stephens, they trying to make you believe some shit that's not really true. What am I meaning by all this? So they're showing Jeremy Stephens as a knockout artist. I don't know how much of a knockout artist he is nowadays. I think back in his younger years and was a knockout artist. But let's look at some last fights: Choi and Choi and Jeremy Stephens, and see if we can see some things. So Jeremy Stephens in his last fight, his last win, it was against Gilbert Melendez. Gilbert had dropped down to 145. And in all fairness, I mean, Gilbert After that fight's on a 4-fight lose skid. Before that fight's on a 3-fight lose skid. So make of that what you will. But again, UFC, they talk about his power. They talk about, Jeremy Stephens KO. Man, they had a KO since 2015. Right? And since 2015, since he got that KO win over Dennis Bermudez, the man's been 3-3 in his last 6. And all the losses have been by decision. He probably got a tough chin. But the other 2 wins were also by decision too. In the last 6 fights, that doesn't mean anything, right? That doesn't mean he doesn't have some KO power. I just don't think it's to the level that they trying to hype up old Jeremy Stephens at, right? Like I don't know. Most of his KO wins were even at lightweight anyways, right? So I don't know. But let's look at his wins real quick. Let's look at the facts of what we have. Both the wins that he got were from guys that were changing weight classes in Renan Barão and Gilbert Melendez. Those are the 2 wins that he has. What does that tell me? That tells me he's comfortable at his weight. He's sort of not even the gatekeeper. I feel like that's a wrong term, but sort of the established guy at 145. And this is my weight class, and damn if you come to it, and try to come at me wrong, boy. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what it feels like. But he lost to, in the losses, I mean, again, they're decent losses. I mean, including the likes of old Max Holloway, Frankie Edgar, and I can't think of the other dude. I didn't write it down, but all the losses he's got are by decision. So let's think about that. Just think about that, man. He ain't knocking nobody out in his last 5 fights. And three of his last 5 fights, he's been beat. Let's look at old Duho Choi, though. They're gonna, the narrative is set by him is all of a sudden now he's this banger. He had a squabble with Cub Swanson, and all of a sudden he's this warmonger. You know what I'm saying? No, I that's false too. Like, he's not a warmonger. The man is a smart. There's some people like I think Daniel Cormier did a quick little breakdown, but look at Robin Black's breakdown on Duho Choi. It's an older one, way old one. But you can listen to his new breakdown on Duho Choi and Jeremy Stephens. But he talks about the type of fighter that Duho Choi is. And in comparison, and I love putting things into boxing terms because sometimes things are a lot simpler. Duho Choi is, in boxing, you have a trifecta. You have a boxer, a slugger, what they call a slugger, a brawler, and then you have a swarmer. A boxer tries to stay a little bit more technical, tries to find the openings that you present to them. A swarmer it's exactly what it sounds like. They come in, they fight with a lot of volume. They're in, they're out. Sometimes they're always in your face. They're swarming you, they're crowding you, not giving you any room to breathe. And you guys are probably thinking of fighters as I'm giving descriptions of what there's the type of fighters that these are. So you could think of examples of the fighter. I'll just give you the more or less the fighting style. This is just in boxing terms. There's different ones, and when it comes to MMA and kickboxing, but just for some simplistic terms, I'm gonna kind of rock with this. Then you also have the slugger or the brawler. And the slugger or the brawler is exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody looking to slug with you, power punch for power punch. Looking to try and land their heavy one, and they'll take on anything you got just to try and land their one. Right? Power puncher is what they call it. It's a slugger, it's a brawler. They're looking to think about a street fight, right? The guy that's just trying to land that overhand right to you, you know what I'm saying? Or that hook. That right hook, gotta hook you like a fish, Think about a guy like that. To me, Doo-Ho Choi is the boxer in this case, and Jeremy Stephens is more or less the slugger, the power puncher. That's kind of the way he fights. It's kind of the way he fights. Everything is to set up for Jeremy Stephens. Everything is to set up his power punches, his uppercut or his right hook, or his uppercut or his knee, right, or his uppercut and his head kick or right head kick to your dome. Everything is to set up those moves, whether it's to do takedowns and then to fake takedowns. Everything is to set up to try and knock you out. I think people are catching on to that. That's the plan. That's what he's trying to go for. And Moicano, Hanato Moicano. That's it. Hanato Moicano. That was his other loss, and that was a guy everybody thought Jeremy Stephens was going to steamroll. So there are. Let's put it like this: there's more talented guys at 145 that can out hustle Jeremy Stephens, because I think of his fighting style. If I had to put, a pin on it, you know what I'm saying? Doo-Ho Choi is with being a boxer, one thing that Robin Black talks about is his study, or the Korean study of not only him but also the Korean zombie, their study of fencing, their study of playing with range. And he talked about it right after the when Korean zombie knocked out Dennis Bermudez. When that happened, he talked about how he had talked to, I guess, Korean zombie's team, or did some research and found out that he was doing a lot of fencing. That's really interesting, because not enough people know a lot about fencing. It's not really popular here in the States, so I'll touch on fencing a little bit for you. A lot of the things that they focus on is range, feinting, and attack selection. Knowing what to use when you're at the range, right? Are you going to use... So it's not only... In fencing, it's not only about clearing a distance from far out to inside. So they play with about 3 distances. They play with the long range, mid range, and short range. But they don't just play with those ranges when it comes to just the legs, right? Just the footwork. They also play with those ranges with their hands, right? So should you take a shorter stride and a longer attack with your arm and do a little bit of reaching with your arm? Should you take a longer stride with your arm and a longer stride a longer stride with your legs, and a longer reach with your arms? Like, sometimes these things are necessary. So you can attack, you can be in mid-range, short range, or long range with your legs, with your footwork, as they call it. And you can also be in a a short range, mid-range, long range with your upper body movement, with your attack, with your arms. And that's a lot of what Doo-Ho Choi and it seems like these guys are studying, according to Robin Black, who actually visited them last summer, I believe. And that's incredible, because these are things that a whole bunch of people aren't playing with right now. Like, people can play with range, but are you playing with attack selection? Are you playing with feints? Understanding fencing is understanding it's a combat sport. It's a more softer, I think, toned down, sportier combat sport, but it is a combat sport. A lot of the rules, a lot of the theories carry over into any other combat sport, whether it's kickboxing, boxing, or in this case MMA. And I've shared a lot of videos about fencing instructors talking about feinting and attacking and lunging and clearing distance, and how to feint and clear distance, or how to attack and clear distance, how to move so that way you can get your attack off properly without taking damage. And that's kind of how Doo-Ho Choi fights, right? He moves in and clears distance without taking damage. That was his MO before the Cub Swanson fight. I don't want to say let's ignore the Cub Swanson fight, but that's not always how Doo-Ho Choi fights. And Doo-Ho Choi seems so disappointed after that last loss that he was fighting in a style that wasn't his own. That's upsetting to him. That's not the way he fights. He got suckered into Cub Swanson's game. I don't think that'll happen in this fight. And you're like, Blake, but it happened his last one. Yeah, I fucking get it, right? But like, Cub does that to a lot of fucking people. He suckers you into this real scrappy game, and it's either you outplay him in there or you might lose, right? Or you don't let him get off on that game at all, like Frankie Edgar did. But Frankie Edgar, damn, he's so talented and so good and so experienced. For us, especially his style worked very well for Cub Swanson, who relies on chaos, and somebody who suffered through the chaos, quote unquote. I don't really say suffered, but somebody who went through the chaos and out chaosed his chaos was old Max Holloway. And in a way too, just like Frankie Edgar, didn't let Cub get off on his game, didn't let Cub do what he wanted to do. You kind of got to shut it down real quick and implement your own style, and out crazy somebody who's just as crazy. I don't think Duho Choi was ready for the craziness that is Cub Swanson, right? And even somebody like that out crazied old Cub Swanson was Brian Ortega. He saw all the chaos that was coming, shut it down. So that might be the way to beat Cub Swanson, but it takes a certain somebody. That somebody could have been Duho Choi as well. If you remember, second round, even I think third round, even like there were moments where he did, hurt Cub. Cub hurt him, but he hurt Cub as well. That's what made that fight so great. It wasn't a one-sided beating, ladies and gentlemen. It went both ways. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind, right? You got to keep that in mind. What else, man? So yeah, fencing. That's what we're talking about. Fencing, playing with distance, playing with range, and not only with the lower body movement, but the upper body movement. These are complex ideas that Duho Choi is playing with at such a young age, which makes the fascination around him really, everybody's more excited, right? And I'm not saying Jeremy Stephens can't do these things, but I don't think he does. I think he has his own game. The good and bad thing about having experience is that once you get in the cage, you have a bit more craftiness to work with. You've got a bit more tools in the old Kraft macaroni and cheese box to pull out. You got a few more noodles, you know what I'm saying? But the bad thing is, I think when you train, you are you can add new things, but you're kind of set in your ways. You kind of know what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But what we're seeing is the people that are adding tools to their arsenal, even if they're a little bit older. I don't even think Jeremy Stephens that old. Was he like 32, 33, tops 34, something like that? They're not old, but like guys that are coming in, kind of doing new things with the game, like, Conor McGregor is a perfect example, adding new things, doing new things, even though, he's at the age he's at. And Duho Choi is all of 24, 25, like not that old. You can still add in things, but there's a new generation, there's a new way of thinking that is touching fighters like Duho Choi, that they're kind of capturing the idea. They fucking get it, right? And that's what's really important. That's what's really important with this, with understanding what they're working with, what they're understanding, what they're playing with. They're playing on this other spectrum of a game, and that's how Duho Choi is able to get his knockouts. He needs distance. He needs to set up that one shot, but all he needs usually is one to get you out of there. It's very Conor McGregor-ish in a way, right? Like he needs just that one moment and pa, you're fucking lights out, motherfucker, and Cub wasn't giving him those openings, those spaces, those gaps. And could Jeremy Stephens do that? Yes, he absolutely could. That's not the way he fights, though. He doesn't fight with clearing the distance with unorthodox attacks. Like Cub will come in with a 1-2, and then he'll do a fucking spinning back fist, and then he'll do another spin and fucking do a flying knee, and then he'll fucking do a high kick, and then fucking do a fucking all kind of crazy shit, right? He'll come in with all these unorthodox attacks within his combos. That's not the way Jeremy Stephens fights, though. Jeremy Stephens can do all those things, but his combos tend to be a lot more basic is a bad word. He's not a basic bitch, but they're more fundamental. They're more, week 1, week 3 shit that you're learning in boxing class, not some shit that you're learning, at fucking 10 years in and you're able to put together. And not saying one's better than the other. I don't want to say that at all. That's not what I'm saying. One works better for one guy and the other works better for the other guy. So keeping it simple with Jeremy Stephens works really well with him. He's really good at that, and that's got him really far in his career. I don't think it will take him through in this fight, though. I've taken Choi, if you can't already tell. And even though he had that crazy experience with old Cub Swanson could do that to any guy. That's kind of the reality of the situation. He could do that to anyone. He can make anyone fight in a tornado. But Choi, I think he's a man with a plan. He's going to come in and he's going to take care of business, and he's going to knock out old Jeremy Stephens, even if it's a little bit later than usual. Could be second round. Jeremy Stephens has been hurt. You remember the Dennis Bermudez fight? Like, if you're not scared to be in there with him, you can hurt him. I didn't watch too much film on the Max Holloway fight, but I know for sure he didn't get hurt in the Frankie fight. I don't remember the Moicano fight as well. But I went back and the 2 fights I watched were Dennis Bermudez, and I watched the Gilbert Melendez fight. But so anyway, so all that being said, I think Jeremy gets rocked, and we kind of find that new spark for Choi that we thought was always there, that we're looking for, that he's hoping for before he goes into the Korean Army. You got to do 2 years, so before he goes off and does 2 years, we don't ever see him till 2020 or whatever the case might be. He wants to he wants to get some wins. He's real motivated. So give me Choi in this, because of all of those factors, because of all those things, because of what he's doing. Give me Choi, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a knockout in there. Let me make sure I said everything. I said my piece on that. Yeah, I believe I did. The next fight, Vitor Belfort versus Uriah Hall. I'm a huge Vitor fan. Like, I'm super biased in this fight, and I am super biased kind of going in. I did a little bit of research. I don't know how biased I am coming out, because let's kind of look at the beneath the names of Uriah Hall and Belfort. They're each on a 1-fight win streak, and before that they were each on a 3-fight skid. Belfort's last fight was Nate Marquardt. Uriah Hall's last fight was Krzysztof Jotko. That's a dude's name. So let's rewind and just look at the last fight and see if we can find some things that we can carry over to this fight. Now, in the last fight, Uriah Hall got hurt by a right uppercut from southpaw position by Jotko. He was hurt, and he was getting fucking punched a whole bunch of fucking in the face and fell down. And for the first 4.5 minutes or so, he was starting to give up. Like, when they got to the ground, he was giving up his back. Jotko wasn't taking it. Jotko was trying to punch him, and then went for a choke. And then Uriah Hall decides, like, it's a lot of mental. He decides, I'm out of this fight, and then decides, I want to be in it. And then starts to defend the neck and shake off Jotko. And then he starts to, try to make a comeback in the striking in the last 30 seconds of the first round with Jotko. A lot of weird things going on in his head, man. He's a mental fighter, but he's a mental case too, but so is Belfort. That's what makes this fight a lot more exciting, because we all know Belfort. We've all heard him before the Vanderlei fight. He was hiding underneath the table. We've all heard, the stories about his, I don't say breakdowns, but just kind of confidence issues going in. And especially since not having TRT, we've definitely seen not only a different Vitor body wise, but like mentally, because of the he's gotten beat down pretty bad. So where is each guy? And the kind of the notion is Vitor is a fast starter. Vitor is the blitzer guy. In the first, he's dangerous in the first round, and after that he's not dangerous. And Uriah Hall's a slow starter who doesn't pick up things till later on, right? It could be later on in the first round, later on in the second round. In the case of Yatko, he didn't turn on in the second round, but it wasn't because he was a slow starter. It's because he just mentally was unsure of himself for a very long time in that fight. That's a bad thing. It's a bad sign when you're a fighter. But he talks openly about it too, so it's not I'm making fun of him or something. Like I said, he gives up position when he gets to bad position. Uriah Hall does, especially on the ground, gives up his back. He won't defend things because he feels like he's out of it. But he will make a comeback, and he will make when his head's into it. He will make a valiant effort to win, and likely when he makes a valiant effort to win, it's recently been in the second round. Like if you remember the Gegard Mousasi fight, and he was getting beat up the whole first round, then decides I want to win, and then he fucking spinning back kicks fucking Uriah Hall, jumping spinning back kicks him like a fucking Tekken move, and then the Yatko fight decides he wants to win, it knocks him out, right? Like when he decides he wants to win, he tends to win. Like I know it's kind of cliche to say that, but it's especially true for Uriah Hall. For Vitor Belfort, he's kind of been in this shell. Like he kind of been more defensive. He's kind of been more, they call it tactical. It's boring, but you can call it either one. Either one is interchangeable. Think about when you're watching a GSP fight. Casual fan says it's boring. A hardcore fan says it's very tactical. It's interchangeable word, right? And Vitor fights like that recently. He has hands. It's a hands high guard. He is trying to look for your opening. He's trying to one punch. He's either trying to one punch knock you out, or blitz you and try to hurt you. And either way he can get it, he will attack both ways. That's the interesting thing about Vitor. He can attack with a blitz, or he can attack with a one shot and knock you the fuck out. Like, let's make no mistake, the man's still powerful. The man's still quick. He just has to pull the trigger. His trigger timing is very much off at his old age, and I'm very sad to see it kind of diminish. And we saw it a lot in the Nate Marquardt fight. Almost nothing happened in the first round. And the second round, he finally goes in for a blitz, and he's finally, out striking Nate Marquardt, in the beginning of the round, and then kind of nothing happens for the rest of the fight. Like, it's kind of weird. But think about this. He's landed that blitz on damn near everybody. Weidman got the blitz. I think even Mousasi got the blitz. I'm trying to think of the Jacare fight. I don't even know Jacare let that shit happen. He might have, and then kind of took Vitor down. I don't remember that fight exactly, but it happened for sure in this fight, right? In the Nate Marquardt fight. He will do the blitz, and maybe he needs to fight more blitzy, because when he does the blitz, like, it's kind of like you don't stop it. Like, nobody's tries to stop. Nobody's tried to like dodge the counter and fucking get over the top. Nobody tried to do that, and I think it's a little scary being in the blitz with Vitor Belfort, because of mentally, what he can do, and like mentally in your mind as his opponent, what the fuck he can do, and who the fuck he's knocked out. It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit intimidating. The way that people have been knocking him out is dictating. It's the cliche, right? Dictating pace, but like being first, striking first. That's how you beat Vitor Belfort. That's what Nate Marquardt did in round one. He was trying to attack first. That's how Kelvin knocked him out with a 1-2, 1-2, boom, 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 knocked him the fuck out. That's how Weidman beat him. That's how Jacare beat him. That's how Gegard Mousasi beat him. You constantly make him work backwards. You don't give him too many openings for him to attack, and that's all he looks for. He will throw. He's not scared to throw 3 punches in one round and miss all of them if it means he thinks in his head he can knock you out. That's the way Vitor Belfort fights. He can't fight this way against Uriah Hall, because that's how you beat Uriah Hall in round one. You pressure him. That's what Yatko was doing. You got to pressure him too. So two guys, their weaknesses are almost the same. Each guy needs to be pressured. Each guy needs to be pushed backward, and each guy will fight at a slow pace if they need to. They're not scared of it. So this could be really boring. This could be a really boring fight. I don't know what to expect. I'm almost feeling like Uriah Hall could be the one to push the pace. I think Uriah Hall could win, to be quite honest. If I'm being abruptly honest, in doing research in this fight, I think Uriah Hall could win. I think he could knock out Vitor Belfort. I want Vitor Belfort to win. I'm going to give this is more of an analysis over the fight of things to think about. But kind of doing the research, Uriah Hall might win. and he might win by a knockout in the first round or two if we don't see a different Vitor. If we don't see Vitor fight with some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Urgency. If he doesn't fight with some sort of urgency in the first round and a half, he will get beat by Uriah Hall. That's point period. You know, the end of that. So I'm hoping we see a different Vitor. I'm hoping for Ross. You know, if he's still training with Ross, a hobby, I don't even know, but he's awakening some of those beasts. Because if we see tentative Vitor, Vitor might not win this fight. So those are my takes on those two fights. And of course, there's Jess versus Paige Van Zandt. I think Jess could win that. The win over it wasn't impressive over Beck Rollins. It was nice, but you know, even Paige Van Zandt beat Beck Rollins, and she did it more impressively. But the win over Karina Dam, that's a very nice win from Jessie Rose Clarke. So give me Jessie Rose Clarke in that one, and also give me a Kamaru Usman versus Emil Meek. I think sky's the limit for fucking Usman, right? He's got ever improving striking, and his takedowns, his wrestling. He's not scared to make it a boring fight, and I think that's kind of the way you should beat Emil Meek. Don't let the guy strike with you. Don't let him touch your chin. Don't let him hit you. Yeah, he can fight off the takedowns, but how long can he fight off the takedowns, really? Right? I think his big claim to fame was knocking out Usman Parharas, and Usman Parharas, I think, only had like one entry to try and get your leg, and Emil Meek knew that, and that's how the fuck he knocked him out. So give me Kamaru Usman all day on this, because I want to see Kamaru Usman fight Kobe Covington. I want to see him call out Kobe, and then I want to see either one of them boys fight for the title this year. So that'd be exciting. But yeah, that's my predictions and breakdowns for this fight. I hope y'all enjoyed it. For sure, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. For sure, you know, if you feel so inclined, New Year, who dis, right? Go check us out on Patreon. Patreon.com/Loaded Joe's MMA. Tell them, what was it, Large Marge sent you? I was watching Pee Wee Herman the other day. But yeah, for sure, go check us out there. And follow us on your favorite podcast platform, and tell a friend to tell their friend, so we can all be friends. It's your boy Money Blake Weather, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.